The Search Podcast USA Edition series is sponsored by Ascen. Ascen is a top employer of record in North America that exclusively helps staffing and recruitment agencies hire contractors compliantly throughout the US and Canada. Ascen's all-in-one white-label platform handles onboarding, timesheets, payroll, benefits, insurance, invoicing, and optional financing so you can grow quickly in the US and Canada. Start growing your staffing agency in the US today with Ascen. Visit us at ascen.com.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to a new episode of the Search Podcast. I'm Elliott Manning, the Managing Director of Cayman Recruitment Group. I've got our very special sponsors on the podcast this week. So we had them on initially when we set everything up last year into this kind of new partnership that we've kind of built, and ultimately it's been going really, really well, learning so much about the US and what's happening out there. But I thought it would be good to share a lot more insights and information with the audience, and we'll let Francis take away a bit more of an introduction again, seeing it's his second time around on here.
Yeah, well, Elliot, thanks for having me. So I'm Francis. I'm Francis Larson, CEO at Ascen. We're an employer of record for staffing companies, and it just so happens that we work with many agencies, recruitment agencies coming over from the UK who are growing and expanding in the US.
Awesome. Tell me, Francis, what's the situation in the market right now? How are things going? There's a lot of changes and movement, and I think that the US is still, the prime and the target location for international businesses in particular to get over to the States.
Yeah, I think right now the staffing market in the US is confusing. I think
Yep.
the market generally is sort of a lot of people don't know how to think about it. They don't know if it's good, is it bad, is it working, is it not working. So we see like a changing mix right now. Generally, the uncertainty in the US is like really high. And because of that, it seems like there's like a quite a bit of a shift. Interestingly enough, it does seem that on the lower end, the commercial end of the staffing market, so like light industrial, in-person events, a lower tier work, we're seeing an uptick on, and we've seen that for the last few months, just generally. And then it's been a downtick in life sciences. Healthcare staffing is really, really poor. And now IT is starting to pick back up, which was really slow,
Yeah.
really, really slow at the start of the year. So it's starting to have an uptick. So I think overall, the US market for staffing is starting to now broadly get better, but only now. And in the early part of the year, it was like really, really difficult. But I think a lot of people are struggling of where to adapt. Like the bigger firms are struggling. We see like niche firms doing really well, but they're like hyper specific on certain types of roles. Like that's what we see. It's like generalist firms have struggled, and firms that are focused on a very particular skill set or a very particular client are doing very well.
Yeah. I mean, look, we obviously being in the recruitment to recruitment marketplace in the US, we get a lot of demand coming through, thankfully, from different businesses, and we're working with a lot more US based companies and still working with, the scaling UK and international businesses. The biggest request we keep getting at the minute is contract based recruiters. Recruiters that know how to build a contract book, know how to build contract desks and temps. And it's just been the biggest demand right now. There's still a lot of firms that are very direct hire focused, perm focused, but contract is just being asked of from everybody. I think that I feel like it kind of maybe a year ago, there was an element of, you know, opportunity in contract, but since COVID and moving to the kind of market that we're in, the demand is far greater than I've ever seen before.
Yeah, one thing that's interesting about contract is it really sometimes it's very difficult for permanent recruiters, direct hire folks to understand the market. If you're a completely direct hire firm and you don't do contract, the attitude, the way that you recruit, the way that you interact with clients is so different than working with permanent recruiting. That's at least our opinion. Like for instance, in contract staffing, if this one thing that's so different is the speed of it. So you'll get a client, they won't know what they want, and then 3 months later, you'll get they need 3 people next week, and it has to happen. And if your firm can't do it very quickly, then you don't get the deal. And that's something that it's like a mind. It's not like you can spend months like finding the perfect candidate.
Yeah,
It's speed game, and you have to be comfortable with risk, with speed. That like you have to be comfortable with contracts. Like
yeah,
the contracts portion is a lot different. Like in permanent recruiting, like the contract, it's so simple. Like it's just like you recruit this person, you get a fee. It's like really simple. But in the temporary side, it's just like there's like the clients will bring their like often they're like huge terms to the table with that have like tons of requirements, or you'll have your own contract that has its own requirements. So that's something that's like it's a big mindset shift. And once you get it, then people do well. But it's sometimes we see it's difficult for founders and owners in the permanent side to
yeah,
really understand. But it's worth finding somebody to like sort of teach you that,
yeah.
like if you bring in a head of contract or whatever to really teach you, how it works. Like it's hard to purely outsource it. You probably see this, but it's hard to purely outsource. You have to work together with the people you hire in that space.
Yeah, it's kind of you've got to stay close at all times. Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of British firms that are doing contract recruitment in the US, but they don't really know how it works and they don't understand legislation and all of the other bits that come with it, which is why anyone I speak to, I'm always like, you've got to put it through an employer of record, make it happen. There's a lot of firms that are already in the US that have been there for a long time who use an EOR, and a company like yourselves to do manage all of their contract business because it's a lot more efficient and convenient and ultimately saves them a lot of aggravation in the back end of it all, which they don't need to have. And obviously whereas in the UK, if you've got a contractor business, you have it all in-house. You don't externally, do anything with that. And it's a lot more manageable. But the US is a different ball game, right?
Yeah, I would say like one of the problems with the US is that there's so many states. So that just means like registrations, that means laws, that means like different expectations, different employee cultures for things. There's so many different avenues where you can screw up on
Yeah,
compliance. And I wouldn't even say like if you're in IT or something like that, the compliance like in IT staffing, like I think it's like pretty you're not going to run into issues until you get to somewhat scale. But it's the mind share. Like you're going to be focused on like, oh, how do we set up in this state? Okay, what are the rules? Oh, what are the overtime rules? Oh, is this person exempt from overtime? Oh, like is this person required to have sick time? And it's not like the UK where it's like one rule. Like the rules are it's like one country, and there's no like different rules for every location. Whereas in the States, it's like that, and it's pretty
yeah,
complicated. Like there's like a handful of states that have paid sick time, and you have to accrue sick time at a certain rate, and it's different in all these different states. And like if you don't do it, then you get in trouble, and then the
yeah,
contract get mad. So there's a lot of things like that. And even on the independent contractor side, there's just a lot of like registration. There's just a lot of like admin work. And so I think the way that we see the best firms think about it is that they use an employer of record. I mean, we're biased, but they use an employer of record to get to scale. Like if you're doing under $1 million of revenue, like there's no point to worry about anything other than growing to a significant size. Like trying to save like a couple percentage points is so dumb. You should
yeah,
really just think, how can I increase my growth rate? Like how can I like optimize my growth to get
yeah,
to a sustainable scale? And like
yeah,
$1 million is not enough. Like you want to get to like 5 to 10. And once you're at $5 to 10 million in sales in contract revenue, I think you have like a real sustainable US book. And at
yeah,
that point, you can think about like, okay, how can I like save on costs? But until then, you're not like a sustainable business. Like
yeah.
you're at the mercy of like a couple of clients. So you should try to really, and so we think that EOR, like employer of record, which like covers like all the legal stuff, really helps you scale to a sustainable level.
Yeah, it provides the opportunity, right? And I think that there's a lot more important things to worry about than admin and compliance when it comes to contractors, and there's experts that do it for a reason. And, you know, I've never had anyone complain or, anyone try and do it any other way, to be honest with you. Maybe you have, but, a lot of the business I work with for the sake of convenience, and you made a really good point. Something I've learned personally, which I didn't think about, is that when you start operating in multiple states, whether you're placing contractors or you hire staff, whatever it may be, every state operates in its own way and it's very different. So that's where, EOR, PEOs, everything comes in, real sort of handy to support you in that business. So yeah, big point that you've just raised there. In terms of like legislations and changes, have you seen them tightening up anything in the US, for anyone to be aware of, anything that is you think may be coming? Is Trump going to disrupt the market again? What's happening there?
I mean, there's two big things that we are seeing right now. So the on the employee side, it's all about I-9s right now. They're like immigration compliance. So like right to work.
Yeah,
That's like a huge deal. Like clients are more worried about that. That's like really important. It used to not be a big deal. Like people didn't like obviously everyone was doing it, but the clients didn't really care about how compliant you were. So that's becoming like a bigger thing we see. There's also more like stuff on just general ID sort of fraud we're seeing more. Now there's basically there's a ton of sanctioned countries that you're not allowed to work with in the US, and that people basically will use a fake ID to work under somebody who's not sanctioned. And this is like a really big problem. And the FBI is involved with a ton of staffing companies right now who are basically unknowingly paying people that are in either sanctioned countries or like that are getting around anti-money laundering stuff. Basically, this is a huge problem. And in staffing, what you start realizing is that there's sometimes a lot of layers. Like sometimes you have these corp to corp deals where there's like another staffing firm, and then you don't know where the person's who's actually doing the work. But you're seeing it more now, less so. It used to be all about the corp to corp layers, and now it's the ID stuff that's even with the W-2 employee that could be like a fake person pretending to be another person working for you, and it can be like a huge problem when you have the FBI involved. So there's like really around like ID verification, right to work. That's
yeah.
become like a bigger issue. That's the one that's the top of mind for that we see right now.
And how are you guys getting on? What's the plans, this year? Are you going to be changing anything up as a business? Are you just pushing to, kind of control the market in your space? Like what's happening?
You know, so like one of the things that we see is that in the staffing market, there's two types of players that are growing really, really fast. One are the platform companies. So if you're like a freelancer marketplace, like staffing platform, gig platform, those firms continue to do pretty well. So they're growing at like double digits, 30, 40, 50%, which is really good. So those are some of the fastest growers. The other people who are growing really quickly are like AI enabled small shops.
Mm.
And I say AI enabled, but it's really just like anybody who's using like a ton of automation just to are really efficient, and they don't have the overhead of a huge recruitment firm. So we
Yeah.
see those folks doing really, really well. The really big firms, it doesn't seem that if they're like really old school, they don't seem to be um, doing that well. So we see that those two groups growing, and I expect that to continue. Like I think that AI enabled firms, and it's too early to tell like how this is gonna go, but it seems like they are doing really well. Folks that are leveraging AI
Yeah.
either on their outbound strategy, like getting new clients, but definitely on their like sourcing, on their like how they like find candidates, how they interview candidates, their internal processes, like folks who can like leverage AI. It used to be that was like all outsourced stuff, but now it's like increasing like outsourced plus AI stuff. And that combination is just allowing like you can get like a 3-person recruitment company that's doing a scale that used to be only for like Hayes or something, like
Yeah.
really recruitment companies that are being done by small teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And with you guys with Ascen, what's the rest of this year look like? And are you developing anything new with your offering and with the platform?
I mean, we're leveraging a lot more AI stuff. So like we're getting a lot more like what we see right now is a lot of our customers will have questions about like documents,
Yeah,
have questions about different compliance things. And at our scale, it's like it's difficult to give everyone like the kind of like personal attention you need for certain things like that. But there are certain AI tools and certain other automation tools that we've developed that allow some self-serve in some of the compliance areas, because there's just so many things, and especially really on the what we found is like really on the contract side. Like one of the things UK firms struggle with a lot is they come in uh, to the US, they get like a big contract and the contract sucks. Like they'll
yeah,
work with like we see this all the time. That you get like somebody will come in from the UK, they'll find a consult like a subcontractor of like a big client. So like it'll be like Microsoft, this is not a fake example, but Microsoft, and then like Acme Consulting Inc.
yeah.
and the staffing firm. And the contract they get is with Acme Consulting Inc. But Acme Consulting Inc. gives the worst imaginable contract. It says, I'm not going to pay you until the client pays. Oh, and I'm going to pay you in 60 days. Oh, and you have to, if the client doesn't like the contractor's work, you have to refund me, even though it's an hourly contract. Like, oh, and the client can switch somebody out in 2 weeks and then you have to refund me. Oh, and like, here's some weird IP things. And also you can't compete with us. Oh, also you can't work with any of these other clients. So there's like these crazy rules. And a lot of the UK firms, they're like desperate for business and they think this is okay. And it's like, no, you shouldn't. Like that's not an opportunity. Like
Yeah,
you didn't get a good deal. It's a fake deal. It's a shitty deal. Sorry. It's not a
yeah.
good deal that you do. And it's like you should try to get direct contracts. And if you get these like layered contracts, you should be comfortable pushing back. And if they don't want to do it, it's not worth like getting
No,
really bad contracts to secure business. Like it's not
yeah.
worth it. You're not going to make real money on those.
No, I was at an event earlier this week, and one of the key talking points was, you know, taking business for the sake of taking business, and that's what a lot of firms are doing, especially to get into the US market. And they're picking bad business, like you just said, and you can swear on this podcast, it's fine, but you like, it's shitty business, and ultimately for these business, companies that they get excited, oh, I just picked up a new client, 4 client contract jobs, whatever in tech, but the terms are horrendous. They're, picking up scraps, if that makes sense, that no one else wants. And it makes it easier for them to pick it up. But, when you work with nurturing your client, building a partnership, working with them towards their projects when they've had seed investment, whatever it may well be, they're the good businesses. And I think that, that takes time, it takes patience, and it's going to take the relationship to be built out to get it. And you know, it's an expensive market, the US, and ultimately you've got to have patience and the capability to wait for it sometimes. So yeah, there's kind of I've seen this and I've heard a lot of this as well.
Yeah, you have to be confident enough to turn down these bad deals. And it's all around we really see it in these layered contracts.
Yeah,
That's where the business is. It's like there's another staffing firm in front of you, that's the prime vendor. There's another sort of some kind of subcontractor. A lot of times they're consulting, they might be MSP, they might be a prime. And if you can't get the direct deal, like you don't have the deal. Like
no,
it's not really yours. It's like money maybe, but it's like don't think of that. Don't build your business on that. And what you should do is like if you can't get the huge clients, like honestly, what you should do is you should really go to the mid market. That is like there are so many companies in US that are mid market firms that are like doing hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue that need staffing. They're not name brands. So like don't think like, oh, the end client is like this Fortune, 1000 company. I need to work with them and I'll do this like really bad deal in order to do it. You shouldn't think like that. You should think like, I'm not good enough to get direct deals yet. I'm not good enough, but I can go and find this $500 million market cap, like small, like mid market firm that's going to want to work with me and build this, like what you're talking about, this like partnership.
Yeah.
Find those, build a base of those, and then like later on you can get the huge enterprise contracts. But trying to do these like layers, it's like so bad. And then like people get into like financing trouble, they get into like contractual trouble, and they end up making like they make like $2 an hour like margin, and it's just so dumb. It's not worth
Yeah.
like it's not worth the effort that you did to get that. It's just not worth it. You have to think about it.
Keep your standards high. That's kind of really what it comes down to. Keep your standards high and stick to your guns, and don't be afraid to walk away from business.
Yeah, the
Is
market's
pretty
big
much
enough. The market's big enough, and that's what people don't
exactly.
understand. It's so big. It's like if you're not getting more clients,
Yeah.
you have a positioning problem.
Yeah.
It's not. It's like, but if your positioning is okay, and if you have like what you want to recruit, how you sell, your position in the market, you're gonna find a lot more firms. Like you're gonna find more clients. Just like turn
Of
it down,
course.
keep looking. But if you can't find anything, then maybe you have a overall positioning problem that you
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
fix.
Yeah.
And that's not like that doesn't you don't fix it by getting bad business.
No, exactly that. Francis, thank you very much for this episode and jumping on with me. Always got lots to talk about. Always, insightful information on the market. You see it firsthand more than anyone, so you know what's going on out there. If anyone has any questions, please reach out to Francis and the guys over at Ascen. And ultimately, if there's any need for employer record services in the States, these guys are awesome. Their platform is outstanding. And feedback so far from a lot of businesses has been super positive. So feel free to reach out to these guys directly. And Francis, once again, thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we'll chat again very soon.
Elliot, thank you.